I'd like to thank the Welfare Reform Working Group for the invitation to speak here today. I'm very sorry I can't be here personally with you. I'm at a technical meeting of the World Health Organization in Geneva. I'd also like to greet all the people who are there for the forum. Nā rangaterama a tēnā koutou, ka nui te aroha kia koutou, nō reira tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa. I want to address 4 topics briefly. I can only touch on each of them given the time that I'm allowed. But the first one has to do with labour market policies. Welfare reform that is designed to increase labour market attachment and independence must, in my view, address central issues in labour market training and education. So I'd like to commend this to the Welfare Reform Working Group as a primary area of investigation if we want to get people off benefits. Labour market training and education is the bridge, it's the passport, and it provides the equipment that is required for long and middle term beneficiaries to move into work. But therein lies many problems. For example, there are many aspects of the labour market we do not understand at all. This is the labour market in New Zealand. We have no ERO, Education Review Office type body that assesses the effectiveness of our tertiary training or our ITOs, our industrial training organisations. It's almost impossible to identify the strengths, the weaknesses and the areas of improvement and the way of aligning them up for these middle and long-term beneficiary people. We also need to have much more information about on-the-job training in the labour market. Why do some employers train and support their workers and others don't? What are the incentives and how do we get that working much better? We need precise information about which positions are becoming redundant when we go through an economic downturn, how many redundant persons need to be redeployed, and how we begin to get action on that early on. If we could develop more effective applied research projects around these areas, we could lift and monitor the standard of education and training and be able to develop a more responsive, flexible and productive workforce. So despite claims to the contrary, information currently is inadequate and inconsistent. Training could be tailored much more for specific groups, including people with disabilities, people on sickness beneficiaries and those looking after children. Adaptive flexibilities could be developed by both employer and employees to each other's mutual benefit, and that has not really occurred in a conscious way in New Zealand yet. We also have the challenge of youth rates of unemployment and Māori and Pacific rates of unemployment. The slide here shows a Statistics New Zealand projections through to 2021. And as you can see, the younger demographic of the Māori and Pacific groups are going to contribute massively to the labour market in the future, and the much older Pākehā European group is going to be retiring from the labour market. So this is going to lead to a phenomenon called the browning of the labour market, which will lead within the next 30 to 35 years to the vast majority of people active in the labour market being non-white. It's very important that we invest in these young people and we invest in these cultures. These are the groups that were hit most. If we take the December quarter statistics, were hit most by unemployment and redundancy, and that will mean they'll end up in benefits, all types of benefits, not just unemployment benefits but sickness and other forms of benefits if we don't invest in these people. All of these issues pose considerable risk in the future. They're going to require user-friendly, high-quality, on and off-the-job training and education that's adapted both to the needs of the people undergoing the training and the needs of the employing enterprise. All sorts of cultural interests will need to be taken into account as well. Okay, it may interest members of the working group. The German government has just recently embarked on a 10 billion plus euro cut in funding of services. But within that, they have totally protected education and training under the direction of the Minister of Finance, Wolfgang Schobel. Many long-term beneficiaries in our experience want to work, and surveys back that up. But many people around them don't expect them to work, and many of them lack the confidence to participate in the labour market. And herein lies the problem. What is required, I think, to help this particular problem is intensive casework that is work-orientated and psychologically boosting, that helps build confidence in the people concerned. This casework needs to link with education. It involves smart matching between people and jobs, and a preparedness for flexible working hours, not necessarily all full-time. Work and Income currently has a very good track record with industry and could build, and that could be built upon. The relationship between industry and Work and Income is very sound. Work has to pay, and so I'd suggest you consider the in-work payment that is currently paid only to families with children as being paid across the board. So it enables people into work to then get greater amount of income as soon as that happens. That tends in the research to show that people consolidate a toehold in the labour market and from there claw their way through it. There's also need, obviously, for intensive casework in areas of drugs, in families where there's violence, and addressing all those other broader needs, which may include housing and other aspects. During the tough times, tough economic times or downturns, we actually need to increase the number of caseworkers, not stretch them harder. Sole parent surveys show that flexible hours, that many people are prepared to work as long as they can have flexible working hours and high quality early childhood education. The other thing is, I really recommend that the working group consider partnering with NGOs, with non-government organisations, and set up work-focused casework contracts with WINS, partnerships between NGOs and Work and Income. There's lots we can learn from the European social insurance approaches. The build-up of well-invested pension schemes, including unemployment pensions, has served Northern Europe unemployed people extremely well. I'm thinking of countries like France, Germany, Austria, as well as Northern Europe. They've been very effective and much more effective, in fact, than the schemes in the English-speaking world. But they would require a major restructuring. You'd need to have contributions coming from employers, from employees, and top-ups from government along those sort of European models. You'd need very good investment managers, and there are problems in terms of gender equity, where women leave the workforce to have children and so on. Scandinavia's developed a point system to equalise for women. If these schemes worked, they could in time be ways of funding paid parental leave on a much longer basis by a similar tripart type of system. But the critical thing is they must not erode. The danger we're seeing with ACC at the moment is it's eroding its original ideals. These schemes must be sustainable, and they must live up to their ideals and retain the public confidence. I present this as a challenge to the working group. Periods on a benefit should be short, intensively caseworked and helped, well matched into work and properly supported. But there is no motivation for people if they're scrambling around trying to survive, especially if they have children. It is extremely demotivating. We now have, over a period of 10 years, an agreed poverty line, or at least an income hardship threshold. It's set at 60% of median income after household costs and using a constant value line. The details you can get from MSD. The argument is that if the periods are shorter, then we would be able to afford to lift people up to the level of that poverty threshold or the income hardship threshold. That would enable them to get intensive casework, not be scrambling around trying to survive with their families, and put them into a good position to embark again in the labour market. I'm sorry this has been rushed, but I was only given a certain amount of time. I'm certainly available to follow up any of these ideas for which I'm quite deeply committed. Thank you.